is now 2:04 p.m. Tuesday, June 4th, 2024, for the joint budget workshop between the Board of Directors and the Finance Committee. It's now called to order. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Stovall. Director Saunders. Treasurer Thornborough.
Here.
Vice President Seaman. Here. President McDonald.
Here.
And then with the Finance Committee, I've got Member Miller.
Here.
Member Gorence Jr.
Here.
And then Secretary Hellick and Chairman Fisher checked in with us. We were aware of those absences.
Thank you. Vice President Seaman, can you lead us in pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have with us today. Okay, on the adoption of the agenda, are there any public comments on the adoption of the agenda? No? I'll now close this section of the public comment period. There'll be no further public comments on this section. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda? From any board members? Motion to adopt the agenda. Second. Seconded by Director Stovall. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? None opposed. Motion passes 5-0 to pass the agenda. Okay. This is the public forum section. Please note guidelines for public forum as they appear on the meeting agenda. As a reminder, under the Brown Act, the public must address all of their public comments to the board only, not to the staff or other members of the public. Due to the Brown Act limitations, the board is not able to discuss or take action on any items not on the agenda. The public forum is now open. Okay. No hands. None here. The next point is item 4, and there's informational items, and I understand there's.
At this time, we don't have anything, information.
Okay. We'll now move on to item 5, action items. We have the joint workshop draft of the operating budget and the CIP improvement plan. And I would now ask that Nicholas lead us in that, but in the meantime, I'm the president, Mitch McDonald, and I will be overseeing the workshop today. The Finance Committee is present to assist with the budgetary review process. Andy Fisher serves as the committee chair, who had as a high priority a last minute personal engagement, so he won't be present. However, the vice chair, William Gorence, will be standing in for him, and Andy had just one little statement he'd like me to present. The Finance Committee has gone to a lot of effort to maximize revenue from investments and grants to save the ratepayer as much as possible. And Andy wants to ensure that the community knows about the Finance Committee and use it as a forum to ask anything they can about how their rate payments are being managed. So at this time, Nicholas, could you please initiate the budget review process?
Sure. In your packet, you have a budget workbook. That's the entire budget for the district. And I figure easiest and most transparent will be to go through it page by page. So if you'll join me on page 2, it's a letter that I have addressed. And I will update the date once we go to final adoption. But it is dated currently April 26th. And it discusses some of the investment revenue that we're adding. It discusses that we have approximately $400,000 more in revenue this year than last year. It also discusses property taxes have been increased about 5%. We have discussed how we're continuing to surplus out old equipment. And we've had increased utility costs and increased labor costs that have accounted for some of the increases in expenses. Did anybody have any questions in regard to this? Seeing none. And if, at any time, if the public would like to raise their hand, I will take your question as they come, so we can do this in full transparency.
I did have one comment.
Yes, sir.
On page 5, it mentioned that I did a calculation of property tax increases was 8%, but the property tax income revenue went up 2.2%. So is your 5% that you just mentioned. So,
My original calculation, I'll have to go back and do the math, but I'll make sure it's right.
so the county actually reported 2.2. It's got 8 in the numbers and 5 here, so that's all I wanted to.
Yeah, we'll verify that.
Oh, okay.
Page, 1 of the actual document, so it says GDPUD overview. This is all, the same as it was last year. We did not change any of this. This is just, basic information about the district. It's also some of our history. Moving on to the next page is page 2. It's the organizational chart. We are proposing no changes to the organizational chart this year. We did add, some positions last year. But we are keeping it the same as it was last year at this time. Right now, if you go to page 3, it's the projected fiscal year 25 employee salaries. This does include 2 vacant positions that are seen in red. We are in the process of filling those currently. My guess is that we will have them filled before July 1st. But we would like to keep them in red until they are officially filled. Did anybody have any questions in regard to this page 3? Seeing none. So moving on to page 4 is discusses our revenue sources. We get a lot of our revenue from, operating revenue. This is from water sales. We also receive other revenues, but you can see on the graph down below, we have started to break out the different categories of water sales. So this is something that we foresee as a state requirement moving forward, and we're trying to comply with that. So there are a few inconsistencies with previous budget revenue reports and this year's, just because of the way we have broken out some of the numbers. None of the numbers actually changed. It's just we tried to go back in and decipher where these accounts were back before we started to break them out, and some of the math didn't add up. So we're working on making sure all those, but this is all for previous years.
Question.
Yes,
Penalties,
yes.
is that something we're gonna have no matter what? Are they oopses to the system and penalties?
These are late fees, people who don't pay their bill on time.
Oh, those kind of penalties, not our
It's-
regulatory penalties.
No, these are not
That's what I'm asking.
expenses, these are revenues. So it's income coming in, and this did go up a little bit from before because we did change the late fee policy. You know, I'd say it has encouraged people to pay a little bit more on time, but we will always have those who are 1 or 2 months behind, and they just kind of have that running total.
Unless there's another COVID,
Unless there's another one now.
another COVID.
Oh.
Cause you could look at the revenue during COVID and it's 0.
Yeah.
That's a point,
Right.
just to be aware of.
Nicholas?
Yes,
I had a question on sentence 4 of water sales. Could you clarify that paragraph? It says water sales. Should that be revenue? It says are expected to increase this year. Due to cost of service analysis and expected rate increases, residential water sales are projected to be substantially similar. You mean similar? It looks like it's the same. So you mean water revenue, not sales, correct?
we could say water sales revenue or water, however you'd like to, we can make whatever word you would like to go in
So
there.
it's basically similar, 3 million.
It's the same, it's generally the same as it was last year.
Yeah.
We do foresee if a cost of service analysis is approved,
Mhm.
then we will see an increase in revenue based upon that, but we don't know how much or what that will be, so it's very hard for us to speculate.
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm trying to scroll.
So, do you want this on this?
No. Oh, you can put other you want. So B is non-operating revenue. So this is the first category. Operating revenue is what they call an enterprise fund, can only be used in its fund. So we cannot take water sales and put it into wastewater or hydro or any other project. It has to be returned to the water sales portion, water delivery function of the district. Non-operating revenue is something that we have a little bit more flexibility with. And that includes property taxes. We do receive a payment from Sacramento Municipal Utility District, or SMUD. And we have interest, leases, and the hydroelectric revenue. So these are, if you continue to scroll, property taxes make up the bulk of this. We also include grants in this because those are also considered non-operating revenue. And I believe we're estimating about $3 million in grants this year. That is not included in any of the revenues for the district. It is only included as a supplemental revenue on the bottom of the budget. You'll see that later.
Yep.
Yes.
It appears that there's a 20% decrease in leases from last year for income. Last year, the actual, I mean, not last year, but 22-23 was around $107,000 and proposed budget is $80,000. Is there a comment there?
Turn it over to Jessica. Do you have any knowledge that we lost any leases or anything?
No, I think that the leases are usually around $80,000 and we had some that were that termed. Or they had a balloon payment. We've got like Comcast and Verizon and
Yeah, I'm not aware of any changes.
there wasn't any changes, but we did have like 2 balloon payments in 2022 when I first got here.
Because if I look at the actuals of 21-22 and 22-23, they're both over 100,000.
Yeah, we could take a look at that and make sure that we're more consistent. It's probably closer to 100 and we can adjust that number up to 100. But we'll definitely double check before we do that.
What are we doing right now? Are we just all jumping in with
Yeah, anytime.
issues out here or?
Yes. I don't know if we're doing it yet. Where are you at?
Page 6, 5, 6, and 7 are all the same. 5 and 6, I guess. Did you have a question on 5 or 6?
Oh, I got a bunch of. Oh, no, not 5 and 6.
Yeah.
I'm on 7.
Okay, then let's,
I wanted to add one quick thing on 4, if you wouldn't mind, making a reference to the decreased irrigation sales as a percentage instead of a dollar figure. If you can add in 13%, which would make it for those that are, you know, instead of getting their hands around $50,000, you know, if we could just make it because you got other things.
Well, you're gonna add the percentage to the amount, right?
Yeah.
Not replace the amount with a percentage.
Correct, add that to it, as you did consistently everywhere else. Thank you.
I think a point around, and I had trouble wrapping my head around this, is that when we go back for the last 3 years, the irrigation season has varied from less than 5 months to 6.5 months. Because of how we've changed it. Last year, it started a month late.
it's true.
And so it added another month. It stayed the same in a calendar year, but when you look at it from a fiscal year, it changed because of putting it off till the end of October or cutting it early. So
Oh, it moved.
there had to be,
It
there was a catch up
Yeah,
where if you look at calendar year, it's pretty much the same as fiscal year. I think from here on out, we're gonna probably go from May 1st to middle of October. It's to be decided every year,
Middle-
but when we
middle-
look at the income
Middle
for
of
those
May.
years, you
Right.
see a significant difference, but calendar years, it's not.
Middle of May to the middle of October.
Yeah.
But it actually did change considerably because of the shift. It shifted
Yeah.
more of the revenue into this
Right.
fiscal year that we're in currently.
but I thought that we were told, I believe it was last year, that even though it went into the fiscal year, it was going to be counted to the end of this fiscal year. Instead of splitting it up from fiscal year to fiscal year.
We have to split it up because it's when we receive the payments.
Okay.
It has to, when we bill it, it has to come, the last bill that we send out June 30th.
Yeah,
Any money that comes for that bill, that goes back.
okay.
But we can't take and split months and like have like bubbles of months.
Well, I
for
think
that.
you just might have answered the question because you said your last bill goes out June 30th.
No, not the last bill, but the bill that goes out June 30th. Any
Oh,
payments
not the
for-
last bill.
No, any payments for June 30th go in the previous fiscal year.
All right,
And anything that starts July first would be considered for the next fiscal year. It's the same way we do with water sales.
okay.
Okay, so I believe, yeah, we can change that. I'm not sure it's very representative, as was stated by Director Stovall, that it is a, a 13% decrease because of the nuance of the season.
Exactly, and that's what I wanted to point out. It's not a reduction in.
We can maybe clean up the language and make it a little bit
I
more.
wanted to put it on record in case there's a question about that, so the public can understand why there's such a difference.
I think it's a good note. Okay, I don't wanna skip over wastewater charges and fees before I go to the next page. So I will include that. So just to be aware that wastewater is a separate enterprise fund. And so anything that is generated from these fees has to be spent in those fees. And so you can see that we are basically, I don't think anything's changing there, save for when we have the cost of service analysis come with different rates, potentially. Yes,
All right, you ready?
page,
No, I just had one comment. It went up 8%. Is that slightly?
I'm sorry, where are you seeing 8%?
Wastewater charges expected to increase slightly, and slightly is 8%. Is that, you want to remove slightly, or you just want to put 8%? It's all relative, but 8% seems like a lot,
3%?
huh? It's at a which is roughly 3% of the total revenues. The revenue is expected to increase 8% from 185 to 200,000. So slightly is relative, but if you put 8% from 185 to 200, that's more accurate. Not so relative.
Yeah, I don't think we should have amended the budget down to 185. It looks like it's closer to where it should be at 200, so I would say it's probably less than 8% of difference.
Okay.
Did you have a question on page 6, Director Conrad?
Oh, yeah. I'm looking
On
for,
page 6?
7.
no, not page 6. 7.
Okay, I'll move on to page 7 then. So this is what we have for a revenue budget. I understand you have a few questions, Director Conrad.
Well, go ahead, what you gonna say on it?
I mean,
All right.
what we did was took the actuals and tried to delineate what it would be for the upcoming year. The only real major difference you'll see here is where we took water sales. And as I stated before, was we broke out the different types of water sales. So the 2.625 million in water sales is for the residential portion. And you'll see further down, the red lines are all the other categories that we have that we're going to include. And if you did the math, they should equal 3 million. So we're not going up from the 3 million estimated. We're just staying at the 3 million, but breaking it into a different graph. This is something I stated earlier was part of what the state is doing and what the state is asking us to do moving forward. And so we're trying to stay ahead of the curve in that. Lastly, the last thing I'd like to notice is the SMUD payment we originally approved was larger than we anticipated by about $25,000. And so we're anticipating that again, that because it does have an escalator clause in the SMUD payment. And we're also increasing our interest income from approximately 250,000 to approximately 350,000. We just received word from our investment partner that we had $222,000 of interest that we had accrued. And so we're reinvesting that into another financial vehicle to at 4.4% to continue to gain interest. That's all I have for this page.
My turn. Okay, I got there's some errors that to me is an issue because when you're doing comparisons, it kind of throws things off. If you look under water sale actuals for 22-23, and it says that is 3.430 million. Doing the math, it actually comes out to 3.774.
So if I can explain that really quickly, we're aware of that. We didn't, because if you notice, those sections are grayed out. Those are not calculated as additions. Those are calculated as what those categories spent. But since the budgets were approved originally with the number on the top, we wanted to make sure that we kept that, but also included and showed what the breakdown was so that you could see that they're not changing dramatically over the years. It's a little confusing.
I'm
But-
totally confused because it says these are actual, so that's what was actually spent 22-23.
But if you'll notice the gray is a not addition.
They're not included in the total.
They're not included in the total.
All of those breakout numbers are the residential water sales. Adam has to report these different types of water.
Yeah, to multiple different.
So he's been reporting these. We just have not been calculating them within our general ledger as breaking out into sales, but he already reports all of these. So I was easily able to recover the amounts we've sold under all of these different types of water sales. They're all included under residential. That's why they're grayed out. They're not included in the total. I just broke them out so you can see why I want to create new GL codes so that we don't have to go through these reporting processes. It'll just be on the GL.
And the state is making us do this, so
It's
it's,
been for
Well, that would have
years.
certainly been good to know. Okay, so that's why these numbers are off?
yeah, so
None of the numbers are.
the bottom number should be the correct number. The yellow number should be correct. It's when you add in, when you have the gray piece in there, those aren't actually added in. They're informational more than anything.
A subtotal that goes into a figure above, correct?
That is correct.
Because when I did the math, I just doubled those.
Yeah, so if you looked at 18-19, you would include water sales, residential sales, irrigation sales, penalties, and connection fees. That should equal anything that's in white.
In commercial sales,
And commercial.
because for those 2 fiscal years before we converted to.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see, yes, you're correct.
Those were from mom and those were broken out in the old.
Yeah, well, when we converted to Tyler, everything was all residential, which is not the way the state is basically slapping our hand for doing it that way for the last couple of years.
Okay,
Ask a quick question in between for clarification. I'm
if you're quick about it.
quick
Should
about
we
it.
make a note of that in this paragraph?
Might be helpful.
Okay. I can pick it
So-
up.
The commercial, the institutional government, irrigation, those are all different.
So that's not
different rates.
irrigation, that's landscape water. Which are you referring to? Which one?
It's treated irrigation water.
Correct.
Is that all? So is this being sold at treated water?
Correct. Everything is being sold under
So
treated water
everything is
prices.
just treat the same rate?
Yes.
Okay, that's what.
All we're doing is, like I said,
No,
this is just an exercise that we're being made to do by the state. But it's all treated water prices. We're not giving anybody any reduced rates.
Right, okay.
Board members, thank you for looking to me for direction. Nicholas, because he's leading this, it'll be more efficient if you just go right.
I was asking because he had the floor.
Oh,
I was
okay.
asking if I could ask him,
Oh, okay.
if I could ask clarification. on the
Okay.
question. That's
Just in
why-
case you thought me,
No, I was looking at him.
okay, okay.
On the 23-24 actuals, okay, I don't see any gray areas. But it comes up to 2.9,932, and the math comes up to 3.196.
It's grayed
So-
out.
Here's one right out there.
Yeah, it's real pale.
There's one gray one.
It's
No, they're all
it's
grayed out.
gray, it's just, it's a little bit like.
Oh, different shades of gray.
Well,
Oh. Oh,
Mhm.
do you see the gray on here?
barely, yeah,
You
it's
don't
like,
even see there's only 2 areas.
it's
of
easier to
gray
look
up
at
here.
that thing, Michael.
And this isn't even.
So the
clear.
only thing
Well,
you
it's
should
sort
be,
of light green and
the
gray.
only thing you should be adding is the first two and the last line. I know it's very frustrating and I'm sorry, I'm trying to get away from this and moving forward, this should be much less confusing. And it's not our doing, we're having our arm twisted by the state, so we're trying to make this clear and I apologize.
Greenish gray.
All right, hold on, let's see, 22, 23 actuals in non-operating, so you agree on that as well?
The only three that you should be adding are residential sales, irrigation sales, and penalties, the last line.
All right, we'll go to. I don't see any gray in that one at all, 22, 23 actuals,
Uh-huh.
and it has 2.22 million in there. And that math comes up to 2.498.
So where are you follow, which,
22, 23, non-operating. No. In the property tax section,
mhm.
where it says subtotal non-operating is 2.2 million,
Yeah, that looks like the math is off of there, I would agree with you there.
so I got 2.498 million.
Yeah, we'll have to check the formula on that one, I can see what you're saying there. I can see it just by looking at it, it's probably right. It's just a formula that we're having an error with, I'm sure.
I did the math, it adds up.
Doesn't
Yeah,
look,
but 2 million plus 100,000
You're
plus
over-
the
No,
241,
the
the second section down.
yeah, the SMUD one just in itself takes it out.
oh, I'm saying the
Wait, did
subtotals are
you
not.
take SMUD and break it out? Or did you put all of it in one year?
No, because it all came in one year.
Okay, 1 year.
I can't, and that audit was closed, you can't go
I
backwards.
understand.
Otherwise, if the audit was still open, I would have put it back in the last fiscal year.
So that throws off, well. Oops. Give me 1 second here. So this is 2 million, 2.
He's doing still on. Well, yeah.
Oh, okay, here it is, so. Well, that would throw it off because of the grade, cause I had like, there was a $641,000 difference.
Yeah, anywhere there's gray,
Well,
gray is a subtotal. It goes into the above figure, that's fine, I had exactly the same question from treasurer.
oh no, I got that part. I got the subtotal part. But that whole column was affected by these ones up here that were grayed out that weren't there. Okay, so,
So those totals are not including the SMUD or the hydro. And so we'll check that formula. It's probably because we didn't have the SMUD at the time when I made it.
okay, actual, okay, so I guess. Well, I guess all this is moot then, okay. Construction meter rental. 23, 24 actual.
Yeah, so that was a mess. It wasn't going to the right GL codes. Everything was going into that. So the water sales in relation to the construction meter rentals.
Yeah.
Were being put in there instead of into water sales. The permit fees and the deposits for replacing the meter if they broke the meter.
Mhm.
All of that was being calculated as revenue for the construction meter rental. So we fixed it, so all that, when we rent a construction meter, they have a $3,000 deposit,
Mhm.
a $40 permit fee, and then is it $3 or $4 a day? I can't remember. $5?
Oh, okay, so that's not counting that, this isn't just the
We
water
fixed it for
usage
the
that
next
they're
year.
using.
No, that's for the actual rent. We've fixed it now, so we have an account
Oh,
for
okay.
the rentals where the fees and costs go. We
Okay.
have a deposit account, which they get the deposit back if they don't damage the meter.
Mhm.
And then all the water sales that we calculate with the monthly meter reads goes now into commercial water sales. Or
Okay.
it's going into residential at this point, because we don't have these accounts open yet, but we'll fix that too when we activate those accounts. So that's why it's gonna look so different, because the revenues for everything were being put into that one account.
Okay, so all that is just fixed cost, none of it's water uses, the water usage.
Very minimum of the revenues for that are water,
That's kind
actual
of
water
where I was
usage.
going, that's where I was going with, cause you had in there the new budget's $2,500, and that's a heck of a lot of water. So, okay, good. Sale of assets, 23-24 actuals is 40,191. And in the new budget, we have 40,000 coming in. Are we anticipating selling another $40,000 for the stuff?
We do have a few other things that we can probably surplus on. We have some motors, pumps.
Yeah, but I mean, well, I guess my question is, where's the $40,000 come from? That
It's a-
we're anticipating as revenue.
It's an estimation. I mean, it may be high, but it's an estimation. Would you like us to, that's an easy one to lower because we're not sure.
Okay, let's see. Mhm. Okay, I got some confusion on the new meter. Materials and labor charges. Now, I know that you guys, and that. My question was it tying in with connection fees? What is the new meter? Materials and labor charge? We didn't have it before, we apparently have it now. We had, last year, we had 8,000 in actuals. So far, we have 1,800 this year, and you got 5,000 for the next budget. But what is that?
That was,
That's the cost to put a meter in.
That's kind of funny.
That time
Look,
material.
look.
The time material and the cost to put a new meter in, that's what that charge would be.
And so we did pass a resolution to increase that, to charge for some of that.
yeah, so that was the same thing as the construction meter rentals that the old connection fee general ledger account was everything, was capital facility charges for connecting into the water district. If we had to build a new connection, it was the cost of the meter, it was labor and materials for the guys to put, or the staff to put the actual meter in the ground. So right now they pay a deposit for what we assume is going to be whatever bracket they fall into with that capital facilities charge. There's like tiers.
Well, yeah, so it depends on the meter size, but that capital facility charge is set, that's always the same.
So it's just the size of the meter that is the variable. Okay, so they pay a deposit before anything happens. We won't even start construction until they pay that deposit for whatever size meter they're getting. And then once our staff actually does the construction to attach that new connection to the system, that's all variable. We don't know how much we're gonna use in materials and supplies and what the labor costs are gonna be. And then they pay that afterwards. Well, those aren't supposed to all go into one account because there's capital facilities charge, there's materials and labor which go to different places. So that has also been fixed. And if you wanna send me an email, I can break it down for you, so you know exactly what GL codes they're all getting split out into.
Okay. Well, I guess, well, you got on here, it says connection fees, it used to be, and looks like you moved it to a new heading down at what it says new meter installation, and it looks like the numbers are kind of the same as what they were before, but how does that relate to the new meter materials and labor charge? You got new meter installation, and then up here, up 3, you got new meter materials and labor charge.
So there's based on, or the water ordinances, there's a meter fee. There's always a meter fee. That's set based on the cost of the meter.
In addition to the connection.
In addition to capital facility charge, there's a meter charge, and then there's the time material charge.
Mhm.
So it's kind of broken out of three different, if that's answering your question.
Well, I think maybe we should change this new meter installation to, back to connection fees.
Well, that one was already there. So we had connection fees, we had new meter installation, and then we had new meter materials, and it was called materials and labor, but I put it new meter in front of it, so it was clear that that's what that was for, and it wasn't materials and labor for any of the individual departments. It was attached to the capital facility. So we already had those 3 different, but they weren't being allocated correctly.
Well, you got in the top section where it says connection fees, it says now new meter installation. And then you go down where it says new meter installation, it says see connection fees. So they're referencing
The
each other.
connection fees for the past, the grayed out amounts that are no longer in here. See the cost,
Would you like us
Prior
to
year.
combine the two, is what you're saying?
and just get rid of the line altogether.
I think what
No,
we're trying
because
to,
what I take this to mean is that originally you had it as connection fees because you have prior years go back
Mhm.
quite a ways. You had a connection fees. Okay, then, and you had nothing under new meter installation. Those are all great, was nothing in them.
Mhm.
Okay, so then that's picking up again for 23-24 actuals. Where it's like 14,000,
Yes,
okay, and you
so
got,
that's attached to the
and you-
17,000. 22, 23.
we're moving it from operating revenue to non-operating revenue. And we're trying to be transparent into what is actually being spent. So there's two different categories that used to be one category.
If you want, I can get rid of
well.
so if you look back at the
Well,
audit,
to me, okay,
the reason I did it that way is because of the audit.
okay, right here you got connection fees. It says now, new meter installation. You go down here, new meter installation, see connection fees, so now you're back up there.
For the prior,
So what it looked to me like you moved it down here. This is the same thing as this. You just moved it because you got all these amounts.
Mhm.
Okay, where am I? Connection fees.
You're right there.
Lord, this is close. Okay, and then down here, you got nothing and you're picking it up again here.
Yes,
Okay, so I'm taking that to mean that this is the same as that, you just put it in a different place.
correct.
Okay, now, the problem is you got new meter materials and labor charges to install a meter,
Mhm.
and then you have new meter installation.
We can name it whatever you want.
Well, I think it's just takes connection fees personally. Isn't that what it is in the ordinance? Do they call them connection fees? Yeah, call meter connection fee.
Meter, new meter.
So just take both, you wanna take both of them and combine them, is what you're saying?
I would just put them connection fees. Because if you're referencing all of this, you're gonna see there's nothing over here, but it's gonna be up here.
Yeah, that's fine. We can,
So-
that's easy.
Or just put, see below for more or something. But I think you just leave as connection fee. Now you got a loop going on. That's my opinion.
No, I appreciate it. It makes sense to me, so it's nice to hear other opinions.
It just.
The reason I didn't move it down with the new line is because those numbers are in operating revenue for previous audits.
So keep it simple.
Yeah,
I
right.
have a question on that before. So connection fees are the specific fees we're charging. And there is also the material and labor charge.
Correct.
Because there are laws and legislation which comes up specifically on connection fees, so we may want to keep those separate. Because there are some that we will be talking about those.
I do have a question about whether the materials and labor charges for new meters would be a component of the connection fee that is charged under the method section 60130. Is it all together, like when you factor out the connection fee?
Or do we bill them separate? Or do we bill them all separate?
Go separate.
But when they're adopted, are they adopted as part of the fee? Like, isn't,
I think our connection fee is adopted as one, but then the labor can change. The labor and the materials can change.
They're billed that after it's completed.
okay,
Yeah, 'cause we just did a resolution ordinance. I'm not sure which one for the labor. Or when we do a new meter, and so it's changed, and it changes every so often, every couple of years, based on how much it costs.
understood, thank you.
Director Thornborough, I don't wanna skip ahead unless you have any other
Well, I
questions.
think, I think I'm done. The gray thing, I didn't catch where it said that that's what the gray meant, and so my math wasn't coming out right.
I apologize.
And it was
Blame
driving,
the state, don't blame me.
it was driving me nuts. That's it, but it isn't making any sense, so.
And I do have a number for it should be, did you say 2498220? For the actual, and then the actual should be 5908847 for the line like right below. I did some math. So I think that's what you said, Director Thornborough. just to clarify.
No, where are you at?
Yeah,
Subtotal non-operating, instead of 2,220,437, it should read 2,498,220.
And it's just not including.
Yeah,
SLID.
2498220, that's
And
what I
then the
had.
line right below it should read 5,908,847. It's a bad formula. We'll fix that. I apologize.
Well, that throws my whole, cause I had, the 23-24 water revenue is, actually 4.7 million, not 4.4 million.
Yeah, but that's actual as of. Oh, I understand. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Like I said, it's a bad formula, so we have to just complete
Okay.
the formula.
Alright, yeah, so there's a $263,000 difference there. Oh. There was another one. Okay,
Well, hang on, before you continue on, I do have a public question, so I want to make sure we take public question. Ms. Sheree?
Sheree, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello? Okay.
Hello.
My first question I have is the water sales. You have it proposed at 2.6 million, but on page 4, you state that it's projected to be 3 million.
Correct. We just explained every part of that. It's still 3 million. We're trying to break it all out to show what the state is requiring us to show. It's still 3
Right.
million.
Okay, so that's what you were talking about. The formula is not right then, correct?
No.
Well, I know where you say in the gray areas where you're breaking out that's not included in that top number. But shouldn't that top number be the 3 million
No.
projected?
No.
No.
If you read the lines, if you start at the top, it says water sales, there's no numbers in that box. Go down to residential sales. Back in 22, 23 and 23, 24, we only billed everything as residential sales. So that was where the 3 million came in. This year, we are starting to break everything out. So residential sales is going to be 2.625. And then
Okay.
the balance of that 3 million is gonna fall under the red boxes on the left. Where commercial sales, institutional and government, landscape as treated water. And multifamily residential. So it's all still 3 million. It's just, we're breaking them all out to show what they're actually going to be billed as.
Okay, so they're not gray area things like the other years. Okay, my other question on irrigation, how did we go from actual in 2022-23, 326,000, and as of date this year we have 466,000, and that's 140,000 difference. Yet next year you think it's only going to be 380.
We also just referenced this. It has to do with the shifting of the seasons from last year, from May 1st to June 1st. And a bulk of the payments for last year's irrigation season was received in fiscal year 23-24. So that is why the increase in revenue for that line item.
Okay, down to the grants, you're saying you've only received year-to-date $1,000 in grants?
For the water.
for operating.
It's a different type of grant.
So those aren't all the grants? Oh, they're down at the bottom?
Yeah, there's a grant that we received that isn't really for capital improvement. It was a grant we received to put in a water fountain at the water treatment plant so that the workers can have a safe place to get filtered water. And so we included it up there. We also have a grants category on the bottom that is for capital improvement grants.
Okay, and then on the SMUD, why is there such a big difference? Previous year
we
actual
also-
241,
So we also
and then
discussed
down to
this.
133. Sorry.
Yeah, we received 2 SMUD payments in 22-23. of. We didn't receive a SMUD payment in 21. We did receive a SMUD payment for 1 year, so we got 2 payments in 1 year. And it was $241,000.
Okay, because 22 says 126. And then you go to 22-23, so you got extra that fiscal year?
The 21-22 payment was not received. I'll have to check that, why that's numbers in there.
Okay, because it's got 126 as though it was received.
I
Okay,
understand.
that's my question. All right, that's it for that.
Okay. I got one more
Okay, for sure.
on the revenue, explain again, you explained it before, but, must have forgot. What's the amended budget versus the board approved budget?
So there was a few things that we amended when we tried to make it as transparent as possible, what was coming in and what was not coming in. So we amended a portion of the budget.
That was brought to the board.
Board voted on it.
Yeah, it was the board vote in January when we did the 6-month review.
Mhm.
So we amended a portion of this to reflect where we expected to land.
Okay, because the revenue's off, a couple $100,000. From the original revenue budget was 6.2. And now the amended budget says 6.0. So we did a revenue amendment.
I'm not sure where you're saying that. Can you show
If
me?
you look at the 23-24 amended budget, look down at the total where it says 6 million, the total
Oh, I
revenue,
see, I see, I see.
6,045,000. But the board approved the revenue budget at 6.210 last June. When the budget was approved last June, that was the figure that was on there for the revenue, was 6.2. 6.210272.
I'd have to go back and look at why we reduced some of the numbers. If you can see where we reduced a couple of the lines.
Mhm.
And without having the notes in front of me, from January, I'd have to go back and
Okay,
look at it.
yeah.
I'm pretty confident in the numbers for this year, the 6.473.
6.4.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got it, yeah.
and that actually, yeah. Mr. Steve,
Steve according to Cherie's wanting to know why the decrease in irrigation happened from 23-24 to 25. You gotta take into account, Cherie, that we lost 13 customers in irrigation from last year to this year, so that's gonna be a big decrease. I'm not, I would think,
Steve, if I can ask one favor of you,
yes.
can you address any of your questions or statements toward the board and not toward any other member of the
I
public?
was looking right at her.
Well, you said Sheree, you addressed Sheree.
Don.
Thank you. Sheree, I still see your hand raised. Did you have additional questions or would you like us to move on? Seeing none.
Or Donna.
Did you have a question?
No.
Okay, moving into the next page, it does show our different categories of expenses, source of supply. 5,100, 5,200 is transmission and distribution of raw water. 5,300 is water treatment. 5,400 is transmission and distribution of treated water. 5,600 is general administration and customer service. Excuse me, those are all in, I don't want you to go into the presentation. I'd rather you have the book open because we're going page by page. Those are all the water enterprise fund. So anything that is water sales is coming out of those. And then we have 6,100, which is the wastewater fund. So the numbers really haven't changed much. since we originally looked at this, we can look at the breakdown of the materials, but I'd like to take it to any questions here first. So was there any board member questions on 5100, page 8?
Oh, yeah. I kinda need some clarification on all this PERS related stuff. You got pension expense, you got PERS UAL, which I think is the unfunded liability. The PERS retirement expense, I know what that is. But we have it, this $816,000 for the 22-23
Yes,
actuals, and then so far in the current actuals, we're at 146,000,
correct.
which seems like it's gonna throw all kinds of things off because,
Can I make you really mad?
why not?
You see how it's in a gray area
What's in the gray
and
area?
it's italicized?
Yeah,
It's not actually calculated.
well, you may wanna check that.
It's calculated in the 1 year. But this is-
It's calculated, that's part of the 442.
Oh, wait.
830 has that 146 in
An
it.
expense to the district.
Yeah, but not today. We have to take that out of today's expenses.
Yeah.
It's not, it's a long-term expense.
Per the fiscal year end 23 audit, that is what this year's expense is going to be.
But we're not writing a check to anybody for 146,000. That should not be calculated.
No, and I've already asked the CPAs if we can move this Gatsby 68 pension expense to like the expenses, outside expenses area. And just, they said no, because it's departmental. It depends on the amount of people in that department, the current retirees.
But we shouldn't be, it's not, we'll remove that. That's not an
It's
expense.
a governmental fiduciary and it also,
It's not, we're not writing a check to anybody for $146,000.
No, it's a liability.
It's a liability, that ain't correct. So
Well,
we will fix that.
but that's the same in every single department for both those columns.
It's a good catch.
And it's a 1.3 million.
yes.
It shouldn't be calculated as an expense.
Okay, but isn't that gonna throw a whole bunch of stuff off?
Yes.
We can redo the math for you, yes.
I mean, it's not included in next year's budget. It's
So
just
then
an
that,
actual.
yeah, that was gonna be my next question.
Yeah, this is something long-term that we have to account for, but not something that, it is an expense. It's considered like almost like a loan kind of that we have to pay, but in the future.
Well, here's an impact that I see. Is that you look at the 22-23 actuals, which was last year. Okay, and you take that 816,000 out, then that puts the actuals at 287 for last year. Okay, so this next year, we're going all the way to 468. That's a huge jump. We don't know what this year's is yet, but it also has that, that'd be about 296 so far.
Yeah, but I understand.
So there's,
That was the first year we had to report that too. So that's why it was so much, because we haven't,
right, but I say if you take that out, you got 1.1 million, you take out the 860,000. That leaves you 287,742,
But if you look at the
which is
budget,
more in line with the year prior and a little bit the year after, it's a little high.
if you look at the budget though, the budget we approved was 391,646. So what you're actually seeing isn't,
So in this one department, you're going from 287 to 391, and now you're going all the way to 468 for just salaries and employees in this one department.
Yep. And if you look at where most of it's going to PERS expenses, health insurance, payroll taxes. Yes, there is a salary increase, but a majority of the increases are going into things that we have no control over.
Well, the things like the retirement expenses and the
We do not. control that.
insurance and the health insurance, all that kind of stuff.
We do not control any of
I
that.
understand that. We'll take the health insurance out of it, but isn't that a percentage of what the salaries are?
Yes, it's what we're told what we pay. Yes,
Right, but it's a percentage of what the salaries are.
correct. Well, in a roundabout, yes.
Okay. So those aren't fixed. Those are, the salaries go up, all this other stuff goes with it.
That's correct.
Okay.
We also did, I believe we have. I don't believe we were fully staffed in this department last year. We had a maintenance worker out,
No, we were.
we were close down
We were 52.
52 also. Is there any other board members who have questions?
Not for this one, but it's still later. The workers' comp is fixing this one that was 108%. As we start moving forward, and that percentage still is high in some other areas.
I do see your hand raised, Ms. Sheree. Do you have an additional question on this page?
Isn't this what I've been speaking about probably the last 3 months, that shouldn't be added into the total?
So yes, you're right, it should not be added into the total. It was not added in originally. It should just be
A notation.
it's a notation. It should be a notation.
Okay. Okay, now the problem I have when I looked at that 816,000 compared to the 146, so I went through and added up every department, and the one that you have under 2223 shows $2.1 million total, but the audit shows $1.5 million.
We took those numbers right out of the audit. So the audit
Well, it's
from 22,
1.5
23.
million.
Hold on, let me answer your question before
Okay.
you. It's from the last audit, not from this current audit. So if you look back to the 22, 23 audit, the full liability was like 3 million. And we broke it down into all the different areas that needed to be broken down into.
Okay, I looked on page 44. Are you talking about the post-employee benefits other than pensions?
Are you looking at, which audit are you looking at? 22, 23 or 23,
No,
24?
the current audit, and I did go back and look at the previous audit. And the first one, the 21, 22, came up to 1.594921. These are both on page 44. And then the other year, the newer years, 1.334,027. So and then the other problem is that the audits in the first one, 21, 22, but you have the figures in years 22, 23.
That is correct.
And the reason, why wouldn't it be listed in the audit year? The same fiscal year as the audit.
As far as we are being told by the auditor, it is being accounted for in 22, 23 because it's an expense on the district for the years 22, 23. That's why every
Well,
year.
Okay, but the audit is 21, 22, and that's the one where you have the 816. That's where that adds up to 1.5, not 2 million. If you go to every department and go back and look at that 21, 22 audit, these are both on page 44. And then the 1.3 million is on the 22, 23 audit that was just completed. They haven't completed the 23, 24 audit yet you have it listed under the 23, 24 budget.
I will go back and I will address and look at that. It shouldn't be added in, first of all, but I'll make sure it's in the right area.
Okay. And then it's really not a pension expense. It's actually post-employee benefits other than pensions. So it's an employee expense probably.
It's both.
Okay, well, I'm just looking at the audit. So those things don't add up to me. So that's it.
I don't think I got an answer to my question as to the difference between the pension expense, the PERS UAL, and that's really those.
So the pension,
I thought the UAL is the unfunded liability. And that's the one that keeps going up and down all over the place that we never really pay on.
it is correct.
Okay, well then how come it shows all these times that we paid on it?
I don't know.
All the way back to 21, 22.
We do. We've been paying on it for many years.
Okay, well then what's this pension expense that apparently?
That is
we're
what
not
we
paying?
have. That is how much we haven't covered yet, as of yet. So there's additional, our unfunded liability, we're trying to make up for old unfunded liabilities. And the pension expenses is how much in retirement benefits and pensions that we owe for previous employees that are not being covered by unfunded liability.
Wouldn't that be in the retirement expense? What is?
So retirement expenses is what we pay right now for all the current employees. We pay based on salary and formula of PERS retirement.
Okay, so this is our contribution to their retirement, what you
The
said?
first one,
Yeah,
PERS retirement is current, what our current contribution is.
okay,
PERS UAL is what we owe for kind of back stuff. Pension expenses is how much you still owe that you're not covering with your unfunded liability. Cause there's like, it's more than 2 million, it was like $3 million with everything. And that includes health benefits, employees, it's if
okay. So,
every employee here at the district retired after 25 years of service,
Mhm.
how much we would owe.
okay. But so we are paying on this thing then,
Yes, we're making
on
payments.
a regular basis, okay.
It'll start to go down. That's why you see it going to 146 and it'll be more, but it'll start to go down.
And also add on that, it also changes every year. So that's, remember, investment in, when July comes in and it shows what the PERS number is, so we always have to check and see. Sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. That's why one year, you had it went down and it looked like we had a significant break in it, and the next year it went right back up, so we just have to check that every July.
It means the investment portfolio.
Right. And actuarial determinations. Based on an assumption that people work for 20 years.
Yeah, so
What they have
a lot
to
of that won't be realized.
Yeah.
But we have to realize it as part of, the state forces us. That's what the GASB thing is. They make us look at if everyone here works their whole contract, what you'd be liable to pay for them.
Mr. Garns, were you gonna say something?
Only that in the private sector, the reason they did this is because the financials did not reflect this huge potential liability that was there. It was off the books. So the private sector did it first, and then public sector is caught up with the private sector, and that's what you're dealing with. It's basically all those retirement costs, mostly medical and those kinds of expenses that were never shown anywhere in any budget, even though they were things being paid out and never funded. So it's not really necessary to fund it now. It's a recognition that you have this potential liability. It's good accounting.
But it shouldn't be added in as an actual expense, and so we'll fix that.
And that's the other thing we'll bring up with the audit. We need that one clean page where they can say, this is why there's a discrepancy between the actual net position and the government fiduciary position, because it requires us to have the pension breakdown, the depreciation, and a bunch of stuff that we're not actually paying in physical dollars, but is reducing the overall amount of what looks like our net position is.
And the audit didn't reflect that page.
I didn't understand that these were actually connected to each other and that we were actually paying out of them because. But I was thinking we needed to start some kind of a fund.
Well, we still need,
set some
we
aside, but
still should.
it looks like we're doing that already.
We still create a trust for the unfunded liability, because.
We pay some of it, we don't pay all of it.
Right, they give us the amount to pay, and remember, that's why in some past years, we're like, oh, we said we're gonna pay 60,000, and then they said we owe 90,000. So even that UAL does fluctuate as well.
We were told basically in like April what our UAL contribution will be for the next year.
Okay,
And so we then pay it out first thing July. We could make a larger payment to the UAL and bring our expense down, but I think the better idea would be to set up some sort of a CalTrust or other vehicle.
Right.
Big interest on
So we don't get to, if you do set up one of those, we don't get to realize the interest, but we can use the interest to pay off.
exactly.
Was there any other questions for 5100?
well, let's see that. Let's see. Yeah, I'm to all of these, I guess this is good times anyway, bring this up. To most of the departments there, you're paying, Growlersburg for CAL FIRE, we plan on paying $22,000.
Okay,
And I don't think I don't think we should be doing that. What is the reasoning for calling in CAL FIRE to do the work that, in my understanding, that staff's supposed to do? That's what it has been doing for decades.
because we're able to get more work done with their help.
Yeah, but that's not, I mean, we're paying more money than we should have to pay to get this work done. And now, how do I say this?
Is that for just materials or what? Didn't you say it was?
So they come in and.
It's a 10-man crew for $200 was it $200 a day? It's like pennies on the dollar.
What it really does, it frees up our crews to do infrastructure upgrades rather than go out and cutting all the time. That's really what it does. It just frees our guys up to actually do infrastructure work.
But, yeah. Go ahead.
Is it $200 a day with their equipment or our equipment?
There's,
All their
Okay.
own.
So you're getting 10 people for the price of one.
well, here's the thing, is that the operating budget is supposed to be, just costs that are necessary and required to operate the district. And I don't think that paying Growlersburg, not to mention, I'm not impressed with their work, so, but I don't, you know, we pay staff to go out and to take care of this, and they've been doing it for decades, and I don't see why we should be taking on this additional cost to have Growlersburg go out and do the stuff that staff's supposed to be doing.
We also have been using Growlersburgs for a long time. Like, we had a window, like 2 or 3 years where we didn't, but
Mhm.
they've been using them since the 90s.
And it,
Yeah.
especially right now with what's going on with the work up at the fire area, they've been still fixing roads. I mean, you saw some of the work that they did. And,
Yeah, but that's supposed to be separated into the mosquito fire stuff that we're.
yeah, but
that
you
we're
still
doing.
have to pay their salary. And so we are getting reimbursed for that, but we still pay their salary as part of the operating budget. We can't break that piece of the salary out until we get reimbursed, and we'll get reimbursed for their costs, but it's still operating. They're still operating the district by fixing things.
But we're charging everything else that's fire related to CIP when we get reimbursed.
Not
we do
everything,
it
just
there.
materials. Just the materials.
Just the materials,
Mhm.
so we're paying labor out of our operating
Yeah,
budget
Yeah, we have to
for-
pay it that way.
for. Well, yeah, but it shouldn't be. If it's fire related, the labor needs to be kept separate,
But that's,
because what it's doing is it's inflating the operating budget.
Right.
Because our operating budget is supposed to be just the costs and expenses to operate the district.
but that is operating the district.
That's not operating the district. If we're sending our guys out to go and fix the fire related stuff. That needs to be kept separate, and I think it should be put in CIP, and then they'll all be together and we get our settlement, then it'll be all reimbursed there. And the operating budget doesn't take the hit.
So we can calculate that after the fact, but calculating how much we're going to be doing during the year on that would be very, very difficult. I couldn't tell you how many hours that they're gonna be doing for the next year, fire versus other stuff, or, you know, when we do gunnighting, or when we did gunnighting, that's all labor, that's operating costs. You can charge the materials to the CIP, but you can't charge the labor. Typically, you don't charge your labor. You can charge like a consultant's labor, because that's a bill that you get from them. But you don't break out what our labor would be in that category, because we build the budget based on, 40 hours, however many employees, however many, how many days of the year, that's how we build the budget. So saying, well, for 10 of those days, they're gonna be working on the fire, but what happens if they only work for 8 days, and then we have to amend the operating budget later?
Go ahead, I'm thinking.
I know. So,
Smoking.
It's like-
He's
Great.
smoking over there.
so didn't we just buy a lot of equipment for crew to go out and do all this work, like a masticator, all the stuff.
Correct.
Okay, and then we're still on top of that, we've got Growlersburg working at the same time, I would assume. And that equipment is being used to do the vegetation work, to get the, easement cleared as it goes down on either side of the, canals. Is that a yes answer?
Yeah, I mean, it's used for.
Well, I mean, that equipment should be running like every day or most of the week doing this work.
It
Um,
is pretty,
Which takes operators away, so I mean, there's some spots you can't get that fleet to every single spot. I mean, it's just too small of an area, so I mean, there's always different spots, like there's some places in the country, you only do by hand. You can't get equipment there.
and something we use Growlersburg for is going up to like Walton, and they do all the undergrowth clearing and the whole property, and then they burn.
But our staff has been doing all that for decades. This will now, but I'm looking
Growler's
at
been
this,
doing that for at least the last 2 years I've been here.
I'm looking at this as this is an additional cost to the staff. You know what I'm saying?
it's taken away from staff.
It's an additional labor cost. So, I mean, if staff is supposed to be doing this work, I don't know why we're paying somebody to go and do it for them, I guess is what,
I would say there's more work than the staff we have here that we can do.
they've been doing it for decades.
But they haven't been doing.
And can I ask you, can I give a caveat to what a previous board member has said? Or excuse me, a current board member has said previously.
Okay,
The ditches aren't being cleared to the way they should be for many, many years.
okay,
True story.
True story.
okay.
So we're trying to get all those extra areas that are,
I'm just looking at it like this. We're paying staff to do this work. Now we're paying somebody else to do the work that staff is supposed to be doing. And then, but apparently there's no issue with the MOU violation because we're hiring somebody to do work that is in the job description for these guys. I just don't get why we're doing it. You know, it's kind of looking to me like, you know, we're paying staff to do this job and now we're paying somebody else to do the same job.
but we're able to, I think it's compounding the work. We're able to multiply the work, and was what we're trying to do. I understand what you're saying, but I think we're trying to get more work done than the amount of staff we have here without having to hire additional staff to do additional work. If you would like me, I'd love to hire 10 more guys to go out there and do the work,
That's not my point. My point is staff has been doing it for decades.
but we've been told, but they have been doing a good job.
You haven't even been here for decades.
But the ditch clean was an issue before, and now it seems to be getting done, perhaps for the part of, we're using Growlersburg at 10 cents on the dollar, where now the staff is free to get those things done on the irrigation districts.
But the problem I'm having a hard spot with is that we couldn't hire anybody from schools or OITs or any ROPs in because there was a conflict with the unions. But now all of a sudden it's okay to put Growlersburg in here, cutting jobs, so we don't need to hire any more guys in here to.
So it's a different kind of contract. We can hire all those people.
No, I'm just saying, this has been, my whole mantra when I got in here was, we need to start going to the schools, we need to
And
start making.
we're starting to work with the schools.
And we were told we couldn't do it because the unions were against it. And then now we're bringing in crews that are doing the same kind of work that we would be probably having the school guys do. And it's okay.
I think that was because it's not taking work away from our union workers.
But it is, because they should be out there doing the work.
They're
They
fixing
would-
pipes.
But they
But
would,
they still have, that's their job, is ditch work.
but there would be more overtime, I think, is what we would be trying to say here. So you're not taking work away, we're trying to get more work done. And we can absolutely hire ROP interns, they're gonna be more expensive because,
Well, you're potentially looking at hopefully having new. And
I totally agree, there's a positive to it.
yes,
And we're working with the schools, we reached out, we're trying to set up something, we're also working with a couple, like Cal Rural, local water, to do some internship programs. I understand the question. I don't know if we can get the bang for our buck that we can get from Growlersburg from the schools.
But you're also listing it on multiple,
Yeah, because it's different areas of the district that we're doing it in. That's why it's listed in multiple areas. So like when they go to the treatment plants and do work, we bill it to the treatment plants. When they go up to to upper country, then we bill it to upper country. And so that's why it's in multiple areas. We could put it all in one area, but it wouldn't be as transparent as to show where they're doing the work.
oh no, that's why I was just wondering, because if you're doing this, then I'm wondering, you know, that's your water distribution, transmission of raw water along those ditches. So that's why I didn't realize you were also taking them, putting them at the treatment plants.
Oh, yeah, they do every year, they do multiple days at the two different treatment plants. They clear, they cut, they burn, they do all the stuff.
Okay,
Yeah, I see it as an offset to have seasonal employees. It's an offset on what we would have if we had all of the employees do it. So it's actually, in the long run, we're saving money. In terms of the school stuff, I mean, the other thing we could do is reach out to the Aqua Foundation because there are grants that will fund that. We're not paying directly for some of this school and student impact program. So I'll put out a feel for that for us as needed as well.
To me, it's a cost beneficial way to get work done, and it frees up the staff to do tasks that are more, that require more training and expertise. We need to have fire prevention around the treatment plant. Period. And so if somebody else can do that at 10 cents on the dollar, that frees up the staff that we have to do things that are part of the capital improvement and so on. To me, from a ratepayer viewpoint, we're getting much more for the ratepayer, the output of what the district is doing.
the funny part is, as an operator, because I was an operator, and at the plants I worked at, we did the work at the plant as an operator. We didn't have another crew come in to
So
do.
our operators do work around like the water treatment plants, like Jeff mows, and they do the work around the plant. It's the bigger area over by the picnic area at Walton, for example. They do cutting and burning, and I mean, they have 10 guys there that are cutting and burning all day, where you would have 2 or 3 of our guys maybe cutting and burning all day. And we could do some math on salaries. They're gonna get a lot more done with 10 guys sitting there cutting and burning all day than we could even possibly think of doing with 2 or 3.
Right,
and that
we're
takes
paying
2
for
or
the
3.
guy already to be there.
Yeah, but
When that
we're
plant is
taking him away
running-
from other areas that he could be doing work in the upper country or by people's houses, because you asked the question about why we couldn't do it in the lower country. And it's because Cal Fire's asked us not to put them near people's homes.
Right,
So that's where we can send our operators to the other areas where they can't do the work, and we're getting 2 things done at the same time.
Well, I have an issue with the quality of the work. Because it's
I
not,
mean, it depends on the chief that you get or the captain of the day. There are some crews that are very, very good, and there are some crews that are very, very bad.
so we paid to have this very, very bad crew come in to do all the work. Now we gotta pay again to have them go back and do it again.
And that's something that we can take up with Cal Fire.
So we don't have them, we have them do it again, now we're paying 20 cents on the dollar, so. So cost benefit analysis, I think it's. Good choice for the ratepayer.
If we can move to 5,200, so 5,200 is again, the transmission and distribution of raw water. This would be, very closely related to the irrigation services. So any of the raw water deliveries would be here. Was there any questions in this area here? And there wasn't, this didn't have a full crew, so that's why you see the actuals are much lower than the amended budget. Because there wasn't, there was a maintenance worker and a canal operator that we lost. One was promoted to being in distribution, And, one was promoted to being. I'm sorry, refresh my memory here. We lost two distribution officers, two distribution operators. And we promoted to distribution one.
Yeah.
And we had one other one that promoted to canal operator,
Went from maintenance to canal.
but he went to not in this department, right? He was a different department. Randy?
Yeah, you went from maintenance to that.
So that's why there's a discrepancy on the actuals for salary. And again, the pension expenses, we understand, we'll make sure that's cleaned up. Are there any questions here? Yes, ma'am.
What is miscellaneous daily supplies?
So if we, do you have the presentation pulled up still?
I have the balance, but it's.
No, it's, we have it all broken down into what it is and she's gonna pull it up right now.
Okay, cause that's like 67.50
Um,
and it's daily supplies, not.
miscellaneous.
It could be anything from like, say if they're, do like a clear ball or something like that, and it's some extra supplies or something like it. It could be, it's just kind of a, small amount there. If there's something out of the ordinary that we. Material that we use.
Okay.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, so that we don't break it down any further than that, but it's like small hand tools and not tools, small hand parts, stuff that we have to do.
It's just, yes, like I was like elaborate, like say cribble, I'm doing cribble algae there. If you're doing, you need concrete thing, you need wood thing, you need stakes for that. That's typically like divide supply. You could do garden.
We could, if you, we could get a breakdown of what that. Moving to 5,300. So this is water treatment. 5,300 is a hard one because, we all, again, didn't have a operator for much of the year. We were trying to find a treatment operator, treatment 2 operator. So we hired him, what, January?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So for about half the year, we did not have him. And then PG&E expenses went up 20%, and that's been, we've discussed it a few times, so. Unfortunately, that has a lot of the non-labor expenses. So if there's any questions on 5,300.
Okay, what is Sierra Safety?
Traffic cones, signs, all that sort of stuff.
Safety glasses.
Where do you see that? Oh, yeah, so it's PPE. We were buying PPE and stuff like that.
And then weren't we supposed to be putting, looking at putting solar on these buildings?
So that's a different, it's in the CIP. We have a whole project for that, and just see.
Okay.
Is there any other questions for 5,300? We go into 5,400. So this is distribution of the treated water. So this is any line breaks. This is any meter services, meter work, anything that has to do with once the water has left the treatment plant. And we did take out, I didn't really note it before, but we did reduce a lot of the materials and supplies from last year that were kind of the overages that we anticipated for the fire and the damage and the extra work. So we did actually bring a lot of that materials down anywhere between 5 and 10% to kind of pull back. Like we told you last year we were going to pull back, and we are pulling back on how much material and supplies we're putting in all these different departments as it relates to what the expenses were for the fire. Yes,
And then just a point, what the finance committee brought out is to look at prior year's expense with the mosquito fire. You know, I know that, I think Steve Miller didn't even look at that year because it was just out of the curve, you know. That we looked at other years, not that one, as far as comparison, because it was abnormal.
I agree with that. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry, I can't, you're right, and I can't see if you raise your hand.
Raw water was 5,200 and we went to 5,400. 5,300 is treated water.
Yeah, we're at 5,400 now, we just did 5,300.
I didn't have anything.
So, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as we've broken out tools and tools for each number, are they really being segregated out?
Typically, they're part of the trucks that go to the different departments.
So they don't cross.
Not typically, no. So like this one is probably the easiest one to maintain because these guys are out all the time, only working in distribution with only their vehicles. So you have, you know, Jason's truck, you have Chris's,
Truck 30, truck 10, truck 12.
so there's trucks that are dedicated just to that don't ever go to any other part of the district. They only go to distribution jobs.
So the other thing is it Chris, the USA guy?
That's Jason.
Jason. Do we get paid for that?
That's an unfunded mandate that we have to file.
Okay. No, I mean, that's what the USA Service Alert is. That's a
Yeah,
cost.
we don't, we actually pay to be a part of that. We have to pay a fee.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Which is probably.
Yeah, the H one. What's that, money?
It's probably a good investment.
It is, and it's not that, it's just funny because it's something that, you know, to save us, we probably shouldn't have to pay, but we do. Okay, then we have the big one is administration. Sorry, this is, our biggest category, just to know, and it's been noted before, but we did add the line for the CPA for the accountant. And we did add a line for recruitment. We broke out what we had previously done for recruitment, but we added in a special line item. Yes, ma'am.
I want to go back one. On 4D, it says asbestos pipe cutter,
Okay, you go.
5,400.
Yeah, I just want to make sure.
5,400 updates. You're on it. Last one. So it says remove and purchase, will purchase this year.
Wait a minute.
So we're doing with asbestos pipe.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have AC pipe all over the district.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so our guys are been trained in.
Yeah, it's not the same as, it's not as dangerous as like asbestos. It's AC, it's concrete asbestos.
No, I know what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to have a special cutter to cut it. It's a water cutter. And so anytime we get a new piece of equipment, they always come and train us on that.
And then we have the waste hauling of that asbestos.
It's all,
It's waste on is not a huge cost.
Okay,
And it's usually pretty small, it usually is little chunks, not complete sticks or anything.
okay.
so 5,600,
Wait, you gotta,
oh, sorry, were you, I'm so sorry.
It's only 56.
I'm in this area, I can watch.
I'll wait till you go.
I can see Robert, I can see over to,
Look what's
I
in.
apologize, so it's not
I'll
your
wait till
fault.
you finished it.
You gotta like wave and jump up and down.
It was just on the administrative fees for the Georgetown Fire District assessment. Is that 3,000 or 300? Just
It's 3,000, it's for every parcel that we have, it's $300 for every parcel.
that's the whole price. Sorry.
Have to pay for all the way to the pool.
We have to,
Everything
Now-
GDPUD owns.
everything we own
Up
is,
to it shouldn't be passed.
well, it's up though, because it's all the little pieces of, like little, any little postage stamp we own, we have to pay for it.
Yeah, it's cool in Pilot Hill or in El Dorado.
Yeah, that's what I was,
So like Walton here, the treatment or the hydros, I mean, that's 4 right there. And then there's other little areas that we have that have to be, that are part of the district.
Okay.
Was there any other questions on administrative? I kind of went over some of the new stuff. You can see that.
Yeah, 5,600.
Yes, 5600.
Yeah, I think we should pull out, the federal advocacy and the, grant writing. For the reason that those, the federal advocacy is to get us grants.
Correct,
Grants that can only be used for CIP.
correct.
So I don't think operating expenses should be paying for this. Yeah, I think CIP should be paying for it because,
I'll give you one caveat for that one. There, he does also do some work with legislation. Similar to like what we do with Aqua and Michael is the liaison for that. They do also give us heads ups on that. So we can totally do that. That's very easy to do. And it would reduce the operating expenses. But just understand that they do grants. It's probably like 85% of what they do, but 15% of what they do is also do some advocating legislatively as well.
okay, well, and the grant writing is.
The grant writing, yeah, most of that, and typically grant writing does get reimbursed on 65 to 70% of grants, not all of them, but we try to get the costs reimbursed. So we can move that over to CIP if you would like.
That's what I think we should do.
The point is you want to reduce operating,
Absolutely.
and that's the lens you're looking through, and this is
It is.
to me, a good insight. You're absolutely. right.
That's what I'm trying to do.
So, Jessica can take those two and we'll put them into priority one of the CIP.
But does everybody agree with
If
that?
there's a consensus, I'm not making any
Yeah.
unilateral
Yeah.
decisions, I'm sorry.
Well, it makes sense to me, that I hadn't considered it.
It's a good catch. I mean, you caught the capital expenses and we pulled all those out, so I appreciate that as well.
Yeah, because you do have that caveat in with engineering that the CIP covers those engineers. For those projects.
Yeah, I just think that should be, just be on the CIP continuously.
Would you like to put us to pull engineering out as well?
Engineering of what?
So we have a contract engineer that we pay for
Bennett.
and we have the E-Core, so we could pull those and put them under CIP and just pay them out of the CIP fund.
I think most of them are. I think it's just kind of like getting those projects going. That's why.
Yeah, but we still do it under CIP. So most of we end up reimbursing those costs, but we can absolutely pull
Yeah,
operation. So
I would see that.
do those two as well, please.
All I heard was Bennett, what was the
Bennett and
fourth one?
E-Core.
Ecor,
So anywhere we have that in there. Sequa, yeah. Oh, she said, Joanna's closing her eyes like she's having a bad dream over there.
No. That really loud.
You're a lot
I'm talking about
quieter
the
than Frank.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, you jumped on that real quick, didn't
Yes,
Well,
ma'am.
okay, this is kind of a, so professional services, office cleaning,
Yes,
and then there's, under materials and supplies. Are we talking? Then that gets into restroom maintenance.
So we
yeah,
have,
that's different.
we have two separate people that do that,
Or one's materials and supplies and
one
one
that's just toilet paper and paper towel.
okay.
And so,
Are you laughing?
I'm dying, it's hot here. Sorry, I was in Alaska last week. I was cool, I was cold, but I was hot.
Wow.
You want a cough drop?
Give it to him.
that's probably how they
And then
do it.
I got it.
Stamps.com, is there a reason we have stamps.com?
Yeah, because we do have letters that we send out that
But we
are
don't-
individual.
But then you have, hold on, I see that.
So our billing is paid, our stamps for the billing is paid through the billing company.
That's $8,000 of,
Yeah, but
Billing.
if we send out letters in the office that are just individual letters, we do
but
stamps.com.
then what's the postage? You've got postage also. You got stamps.com under, where in the hell did I see stamps?
So we have to pay a membership for stamps.com and then we have to pay for postage on top of that.
Okay, so that's what this is.
Correct.
One's membership and one's
Yes,
actually postage.
You're
yes,
buying stamps from stamps.com,
It's
correct.
cheaper than buying it from the post
We get them for,
even with the fee that you gotta pay to belong to stamps.com.
office. Unless you want us to go down and buy like 10,000 forever stamps. And then
10,000 what?
forever stamps, that would be a lot cheaper,
Oh,
because then we could keep using those.
forever.
I can go down and buy them if you want me to go buy them that way. I mean, it's fine.
No, I'm just asking the question.
And
Yes,
then we have an overhead copier,
yes,
and then we have another copier
it's
somewhere.
copier overhead. So that's the
There's
like
two.
service. Where you see the second one?
Come, I can't look for this again.
Now, what page are we on?
It's not
We're
over.
actually on that presentation.
No, it says copier overhead.
Yeah, I see that.
No,
That's
no,
for
but
the service, we have a service plan.
Well, that's what I was trying to understand. What is that? Is
So
that-
we don't own the copier, we have a lease and they come out, and if we ever have a problem with it, they fix it and then we, after so many years, we can get a new one.
You make more.
You don't buy them, they're too expensive and anytime you have a problem with them, they don't wanna come out and work on them, so you do it that way. It's a monthly fee. What's that?
And then we can upgrade easily.
Yeah,
Yeah, you basically, I think it's a 2 or 3 year lease.
no service after the sale.
And yeah, $3,000 copier lease.
Where do you have it?
It's an expensive stuff here.
No, there was a $3,000 for durable goods rentals.
Oh, the
Is the
The
lease.
overhead is the paper, the toner, the ink, I apologize, I didn't understand.
The
There's a
toner.
lease, and then there's all the materials that we buy for it.
The toner's free.
But isn't that,
Toner's not free.
Toner is free.
Since when?
Since I've been signing
Okay.
checks,
So the way that our lease works is we get a certain amount of pages. We get a certain amount of black and white and a certain amount of color. Included in our lease payment. Anything over that. Like if we were to run our own newsletter and mail those out and we went over the amount of designated color copies, we have to pay per page after that.
the toner's free.
I apologize.
You do have to pay the shipping, oddly. But it's only a couple of bucks, so.
I know this is the biggest one, so is there any other questions?
So I might have one in here.
miscellaneous office supplies,
Yes, so pencils, pens,
$4,500, that's a lot of pencils and pens.
oh, I mean, it's more than
Copy
pencils and
paper.
pens, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but you got paper coming in, so you
So it's pads, notepads, pet post-its,
got general supplies, which is $275.
yes.
What now? Board meeting supplies, which is us. Board costs, food costs, that's our estimate for 4th of July.
Are you going anywhere?
Are you jumping around? Where are you looking?
No, she's up one, she's at the
I'm making it up.
office supplies.
It's page 15.
I mean, we go through and we look at where
Okay.
we're spending money on stuff. It's not just arbitrary numbers that we're plugging in there. There's a lot of little things that we buy, batteries, I mean, extension cords, there's surge protectors, there's batteries, what do you call it, battery backups. I mean, if we buy a lot of things, I mean,
We just had to buy 2 more mice.
we had to buy 2 more battery backups and those are over $100 a pop. Anytime the power goes out here, just because we have the generator, we still,
You got
they
display.
kick in for the 3 or 4 seconds of lag. Yes, sir.
I think they repair, main building dry rod, 9,000 should go to CIP.
It's right out here.
Hmm?
Bet you it's right out here.
No, all the way around.
That's fine. We can move that over to CMP.
Just to comment on that line, being, observing the finance committee, they caught a lot of the stuff too, where I was looking at through what we got because it's easier to read. But a lot of places we have the CIP pulled out of what was in the previous budget. put in.
But you guys aren't talking to us.
They're next up.
They should be first up.
No. No, they can talk anytime they want.
Yeah, but they have a special section coming up right now or soon. Yeah.
My point is that this, things like that, had a lot of them been caught already.
Then we could have went over it already and we wouldn't have had to bring it up again.
Well, I think
Would have had to
some things
listen to
are more
her.
important.
That's right. I wouldn't have to say
Something than
anything.
they are to others.
Yes.
Credit due where credit goes.
What?
I'm complimenting the finance committee for their helpful.
And then, moving on for 5600, unless there was any other questions on 56, yes, ma'am.
CRWA,
CRWA,
California.
we took that out.
Well, it says removed the membership. Does that mean we're not going to be a part of that or?
We never actually fulfilled the membership. I made an executive decision based on what advocacy we had been receiving from Aqua, RWA, and it was a bit of a redundant advocacy.
Right,
And so it just, I didn't feel like it was worth the cost.
okay. That's what I was wondering, because I know we voted on,
We did vote on it, and I probably should have brought it back, but it was. They're very rural and they're very Southern California oriented, and they're also very pushy.
I don't want to go there.
Moving into 6100, this is the wastewater. Not much change here. Everything is typically the same. We do have a little bit of. Put on one second. I'm just looking. Yeah, be open to any questions. I don't know. Nothing really that I haven't gone over before. I was looking to see if any questions.
I'm waiting for CIP.
Oh, CIP, sorry. Is anybody else for 6100?
I'd like to hear
Yeah.
the finance committee, see what they come up with. I kind of want that one, and then, like I said, I thought they should go first, actually, but.
I mean, anybody
Yeah,
can ask questions. at any
Yeah, we're
time.
going page by page.
If you want to know what we did, okay, so every month that we meet, we get a full ledger of everything that's is spent. We look at where we're at last year's budget versus where we're at now. All right. When we put together this budget, we looked at those things that you had some control over. All right, so we hit things like professional expenses, costs, the nickel and dime stuff that you're talking about here. Most of that was substantiated by what the expenses were as they went along. Okay, where we looked to save money was in things that we could have some impact on, like professional expenses, and you'll see some of the things that are actually reduced. As I recall, generally speaking, the non-labor costs were the ones that were hit this year that we tried to reduce. We couldn't do much about labor because you went through negotiations. We can talk all we want about pension expenses, wages, all that stuff, but there's really not a lot that we can do about that. Especially when we've got bargaining units. You raise the issue about the guys over here, Growlersburg, okay? Your contract allows you to subcontract out this kind of work. So if you could either have our guys do it, all right, and have them cut trees, so forth and so on, or you can have them do the things that they should do, repairing pipes, and get somebody in to do it cheaper. All right, those are the kinds of things that we looked at that seemed to make sense from our standpoint as ratepayers and having to some degree justify the purposes of all of us. Okay. If there's one comment that I would have about what we do in the community is there appears to be some disconnect of how good a job these folks are doing versus what the community thinks. As a general statement, the community thinks our guys are getting paid too much. They don't see a real benefit. They don't understand why rates are going up. When you explain to them the amount of grants that were brought in, and you explain to them about what the government is, I'm talking about, the
Big G, not the little G.
right, the FAS stuff. When you talk about unfunded liabilities and so forth, the community doesn't understand that. And there's nothing that any of us in this room can do about it. All right, so we talked about, once we get the budget, and my thing on the budget is, want to make sure that we hit it. And I've asked Nick several times, is that enough in this category? Not only can we cut, but is it enough? Because the worst thing that can happen is you got a budget that you can't meet the budget because it's too low. You want something that's realistic that you hit. And by and large, they're pretty much hitting in every single category. So I'm satisfied with the work we did last year, and I think that we're in pretty good shape this year. Because we do look at all this stuff. We'll see. I mean, next year we could have something, you don't have to raise your hand, you can just say.
No, because it's like when I started, we didn't have that. They were moving numbers from a previous year, puffing them up a hairball, and that was the next year's budget. I mean, since in the last couple of years, it's definitely changed where we've been able to nitpick this baby down to where it needed to be. And, what I brought up is looking at some of these contracts that have not been looked at in 5 to 7 years. And can we go out and look and see if we can get a better deal? And that's kind of why I ask all these questions. It's like, is there an ability to cut these things down? Like, I've been having chats with Nick about our environmental consultant. But that's my personal view on what those documents look like
Yeah, and
versus what we really need out of them. We don't need a novel, and they're giving us a novel, and we need about 4 pages of specific information to adhere to the regulation. So, that's my pet peeve there.
What I do, just on my own, and always share with the committee, is that I look at the percentages that change line by line all the way through, and I compare that to the economy all the way through and the specific things to see if all of those things at the end of that kind of fit into a percentage that is realistic to what's happening in our economy. I mean, and a perfect example is the cost of gas per gallon's going up $1.21. I mean, what's that gonna do? I mean, you look at that, you look at it every line and you see what it is and what they're demanding or what we're paying, and then you say, is this realistic? It'd be great if we could draw a negative every year and get smaller and smaller and smaller in cost and keep doing the job, but the reality is just the opposite because of the economy. And so, I look at every one of those sections and I look at it line by line, and, one of the things that catch my eye are negatives. Because I'm saying, okay, we saved money here. How did we manage to save money here? And I want to know that. And then I look at the things that are kind of significantly big and say, okay, that was a big percentage. The first thing I look at is how big was the number? And, the number was $20 and it went to $30. I'm not going to get too worried about it, even though it was a 50% increase. But if it was, 233,000 and it was a 50% increase, I'm going to get really concerned about it. So that's kind of the portion that I kind of take on myself and then come back to the committee and report, here's what I saw. Here's some things that kind of jumped out at me. Overall, it looks like we're doing a pretty good job of holding the expenses in flow with the economy. Because we can't expect that we're going to be, that our people are going to accept less money when everybody else's people are demanding more. Our people are going to demand more, and realistically, so they have to eat. They have to pay the rent, they have to do all those things. So you look at what the economy is doing to the people and you say, okay, particularly in the labor section, is this realistic? Or are we gonna set ourselves so short that everybody leaves and then we got nothing? Or, people are gonna say, hey, this is good, and move along. So that's kind of my contribution when we get into this discussion.
I would just like to add that every time we do have questions, I want to compliment both Jessica and Nick. They have always responded in a very timely fashion, and I find them very professional to work with, and frankly, I appreciate it. Makes the job a lot easier. I do check the numbers, and I saw exactly what you were talking about, the gray areas, but I'm so used to looking at it because the first few times that we came up, it didn't make any sense. And then I usually go through these things and add them up on my calculator to make sure the number, sometimes we've caught a few of those things. But sometimes we miss them.
Well, I've gone through it, I'd gone through it, cause I was coming to the finance committee meeting to fill in for him, so he was out partying. And so, but then it didn't happen, so,
It was a great part. It did happen.
and I wanted to go.
You told me
But
you
I
were
filled
gonna
in
go.
for you.
Yeah.
You said you were gonna go.
He tried to, but
I was gonna
Canceled
go.
the committee,
You were gonna go to his party.
I was gonna go.
but he was committee.
Yeah, I know, but even when we canceled the committee meeting, you said you were gonna go still.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't say I was gonna go then.
I was with you all morning that
It
day.
was too late. I like to plan in advance.
But speaking on that, if you want to hear more banjo, we're gonna be at the farmer's market this Saturday, okay?
This Saturday?
This is exactly what district business.
So the one thing I would say is on the continuum of the finance committees is, and Steve Miller and I are probably the longest continuum now from then to now, and each recommendation has put in the tools to get us where we are here, because as we said before, where you just increased by percentages and we didn't have a lot of the stuff. I mean, the biggest investment we had, and it's not perfect, was switching from Mom to Tyler to help us be able to hone in to get that monthly stuff so we can look at those changes, because without that, when we went through COVID and there was those vast swings in all the materials and supplies, we were able to look at month to month where we were to make sure we weren't missing out at the end of the year budget. So that was a really big thing that came about.
It
And
was a $90,000 in office expenses when I first came here, and I went, what?
Well, we cleaned that up.
so the finance.
So the 4,500 is probably okay.
Has been very good at helping us with that. So we've been thankful for all your work and look to continue to work with you.
But speaking to that era, you know, I looked at it and said, well, you know, okay, they're online here, but it's probably because they fired me for a while and didn't pay me.
Yeah, it's a special time.
But the truth was, you know, they lost 0 and I gained 0, so it was okay.
Did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, it's something else that I kind of forgot about. I think that we'll see what everybody else thinks about breaking up the professional services a little bit better. And like we have attorney, and we have accounting,
We have legal as its own category.
right, legal is.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think,
environmental.
no, I thought I saw in there that the accounting was,
It's its own category now.
it is its own.
Yeah, so that was a big issue that we had.
Okay,
And I'll give, actually, you know, Cherie caught a lot of the
okay,
miscalculation, and we went back and we looked at the old RFP, and, you know, we didn't catch it. It was signed before I got here. So we were taking on what was on the original budget, but
okay,
we went back and reassessed, and we have its own line item, so it's easier to follow now. Now, we can look at, can you go to 5,600, well, right there. Wait, where's professional services? Go up one, right there. So for the professional services, if you look up on the board, we'll pull out the first one. We'll pull out the third one, fourth one.
there you go.
So the financial advisors, do you want to leave them in there?
That would be administrative.
They charge us. They don't even charge us 12,000. They charge us by the point, and it's 10% basically of what we have
But the
invested.
financial advisors are what's getting us our interest.
Yeah, but all I'm asking is, do you want to leave them in this, or do you not move them up to CIP is what I'm.
Should we offset their cost of services with the amount of income? they're bringing in?
Yeah, I think the financial is not.
I wouldn't do that.
But your CEQA is gonna be multifaceted, correct? It's gonna be regular maintenance.
Most of that
and
is,
projected, because when you're saying, oh, I'm gonna be connecting this section of pipe,
that's all CIP work.
okay,
Most of the SQL work that we do is, I would say 95% of that is CIP.
I think the financial advisors should probably stay there. Maybe we can revisit that.
Okay, so grant writing want to move, which I understand. IT services, I think we should leave.
You gotta leave that.
Office cleaning services, pest control, pre-employment screening, all should stay.
Why don't we just buy a vacuum cleaner and get rid of the office cleaning
Yeah.
services?
Mike said he's gonna come back in the office once a week.
You're here anyway.
Well, there is that. I could do the side checks and then back in the office.
And
I
empty
mean,
the
you're
trash
so past the
cans,
candy thing anyway.
wipe out the toilets.
What do you think about the water transfer, the Zangelo?
I would leave it here because
Yeah, I
of the
was
financial.
debating that one too, but yeah, that's.
All right.
really a CIP.
I think moving those four, 1, 2, 3, 4 would be beneficial, with what you said, CEQA and engineering, federal and grants. Personally, I don't think you should take any other of them. And the cost of service is gonna go away after this year.
It's almost 100,000, I guess, we took out of here. Unless I'm way off,
No, I think you're about right.
pretty close.
30, 78. 20, that's 98, and 75, that's 100,
There we go. Okay.
105, 5.
All right.
Okay,
Mhm.
moving into consolidated expenses or page 14. A lot of information here, but it kind of a massive roll up.
Nicholas, I'm gonna have to excuse myself now.
Yeah, would you like to turn it over
Yes.
to Vice President Stephen? He has a personal engagement he has to do.
In your capable hands. That's where we are now.
Just know.
Yes.
I didn't know.
We thought we'd be done by 4 o'clock.
Oh,
Sorry.
come on, let's have a reality. Okay,
Thank you.
I was hoping.
Bang the gavel if you need to.
game on.
So under consolidated expenses, we have, we have it done two different ways. We have it done by, by category. And then we have it done by department, and so they roll up together and they equal the same number, you can see. So was there any questions on the consolidated expenses? And no, the numbers will change a bit. So we'll have to, update and send out tomorrow the updated budget for Thursday. But we will add all the points. So if there's any board member questions, I do see a public hand raised, but I'll take the board or finance committee first. Just to clarify, we're on page 14.
Of the budget report, not the presentation.
That's slide 23.
Well, there's no, yeah, I did have actually. There's no pension, the pension expense isn't.
It's at the very bottom. So the top table is by account. Each general ledger account number, which all the funds have, all the departments have, and then at the very bottom, it's each fund and the totals match. I mean, the totals, not the subtotals.
It's done two different ways, so you can see where
Are
the
we looking at
expenses.
the same thing?
Page 14.
Page 14,
Yeah,
all right.
should look like kind of what you have up on the screen on the top. If you
Oh,
have,
there it is. Okay. So that's.
so that's broken out by line item. And then on the bottom of page 14, we have it broken out by department. So you have kind of category of expense and then you have department expense.
Something about jargon.
Which one were you looking for, Mike?
Well, the one that,
The Gatsby one?
Yeah, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why, that's why it's good, because you see by account, it shows what we actually pay. And then when you go by, the departments, it's in the non-operating expense, and then the GASB one shows up there. It's on slide 23, not 22.
It's not on that side.
There it is.
There you go.
It is on page 14 as well. It's all the way at the very bottom of the page underneath non-operating expenses. You have
Right.
the loan payment, GASB 68, GASB 75, and retiree benefits.
And that was just added per the last meeting.
That's,
Oh, way down at the bottom. now.
Way at the bottom, yeah. And you can see it up on the screen now for a little bigger if you want to have bigger let numbers.
Oh, okay. I gotta get my eyes fixed.
No. You have to. These little mini numbers.
I'm going through this, I got an LED flashlight.
glass.
No, I can't do both. My wife has one of these things that goes around next to magnifying and a light, but I couldn't get it.
We read it really small. So
I
the
really,
public can't hear.
so I really
Yeah.
appreciate these bigger copies of stuff. One of them had, yeah.
Well, we do have that in the front office, ADA requirements.
We can print them 11 by
Create larger
17.
print.
Yeah, no,
He's gonna come in with his budget report like.
I won't.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have a binder and it could be like a portfolio.
Presentation.
Maybe if I got an overhead
Black yarn.
projector.
We can do that too. Miss Cherie, I do see your hand raised. I'll see if you wanna ask your question now.
Yes, on retiree benefit, what does that include? 5104?
There's a whole slide for it.
If we can move down and go through another slide and we'll show you.
Can she see
Oh,
this?
it's down below?
It's
Where's
coming.
it at?
It's coming.
Well, I can't see it, so I'm
It's-
going through the packet. Not on the packet?
Give her a page number.
It's not in the packet, it's in the presentation. We broke it out as a piece of the presentation.
Oh,
We can post it
Okay.
online, right there. We can, it's in
Okay,
the
well, what-
presentation that's posted online. I apologize, you can, slide 18 of the presentation, if you have it's in the packet.
Okay. Well, my question is, you've got 52,000 for this next year, yet
Yes.
you've only spent 5,000 this year and 13,000 the year before.
Yeah, we
So-
spent 51,000 the year before that, so. This was
9,000.
all recalculated. We had to go back in and basically decipher old information and recalculate this. So this is the actual cost that we're spending now. It took about 2 to 3 weeks to figure this out.
Is that include the $435 that the
This is a part
retirees
of
get?
that, yes. So if
Okay.
you,
So-
when you get a minute at home, you can look at the presentation that's posted online. You'll see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 categories at 177. So some of our retirees get only 177 a month. And then some of our retirees get 435, and then one
Correct.
gets 100%.
Yeah,
So
right,
you
we know
can-
who that is. Okay, so
Um,
my question then, I think maybe the year-to-date is an error because it's the same amount as the automobile allowance, and that doesn't seem to, that would be a coincidence. See where it's 5,161?
No, I'm not following
Well-
what you're saying.
Total
I see.
expenses, 43024.
I'm sorry, I see. You're looking up higher.
I'm looking at what?
I'm trying to follow where you're at. 'Cause
Okay, I'm on total expenses, 43024, the year-to-date. And then auto allowance is 5,161, so is the retiree benefit. I kind of think the retiree benefit should probably,
yeah,
unless that's a big coincidence.
it's a typo. You're right. That's a good catch. Thank you so much.
Okay. Hey, I just look at, I spot stuff, so.
No, I
right,
I
that's it.
appreciate that. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's 48,000 right now.
48,000 is the correct number, so I apologize. Okay, we can move into capital improvement plan, and obviously, we're gonna add a few things to priority one. The stuff that, was just noted, the 4 categories. So those will go in priority one. But I know that Director Thornborough had his hand raised earlier for CIP, so, if you have any questions, please.
Are we at CIP now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The tunnel inspection,
Yes.
we got in there 65,000, which we've had in there for quite a while. What's the 4,200 that was spent so far?
We shouldn't have spent anything for tunnel inspection.
$4,200.
Yeah, I think- Yeah, well, we had to, we bought the.
A canary.
The big one at Costco.
We'll fix that. That's,
MK.
So we don't know what that
it's
4,200,
put underneath the wrong project number.
so we don't know what it is.
We could go in and I could email you
Okay.
tonight.
All right,
Was that the
We
vote?
hired Adam $4,200 to go on.
All you gotta do is go to a rafting center.
okay, on the headquarters building. We've had $200,000 in there for quite a while. We spent 19,481.
Yes.
What's that?
That was the new HVAC system that we purchased.
$19,000?
Have you bought an HVAC lately?
No, that also includes the sheds up, the,
Yeah, the buildings up in the
Buildings
fridge,
for the-
the equipment too. Those were 10,000 again.
Okay, well, I guess my question is. Both of those should be on CIP. And,
This is CIP.
this is.
oh, I'm sorry.
I was like, wait a
That
minute.
was pretty funny. Everybody gave me the same look at the same time, and I went, ah, shit.
Was that a compliment you were just throwing out there? That it's in the
Yeah,
right
yeah,
place?
yeah.
Is that what that was all about?
Okay, but I think that, well, the shed part, I don't understand why that is under the headquarters building, number one.
Because it was we reached out to try to find somebody to do the work here. We haven't been able to find anybody that can move this wall. And so we
Okay.
needed to do other improvements to the property, and so that was a likely category. And we went over this, and when we approved the sheds, we told the board where the money was gonna be coming out of and
Okay.
why we were taking it out of that section.
All right. Vehicle replacement, 174,000.
No,
No what?
well, that was, so where are you looking? Do you see the big black line in the middle?
Yeah,
Anything on the right-hand side of that's for next year. Anything on the left-hand side of it's stuff we've spent this year.
which is right where that 174,000 is.
Yeah, so we bought 2 trucks and the dump truck.
Mhm.
We haven't included the dump truck in that cost yet, so. We haven't, we just got the dump truck, so we haven't put a number in there yet.
Okay.
So that's for the
They want-
small dump and the small F-550.
Okay, we're not doing any canal lining this year?
We are doing it under a grant, so it's in the second section.
Okay, that's good. This stuff for, wait, let's see what else we got in here. Got that. On the, for this budget here. For 24-25, you got $100,000 for vehicles.
Yes, we were looking to replace the 04 Chevy and an 08 Chevy, that is part of the water treatment.
So you like half ton,
Yeah, just half ton trucks.
so, okay. And you can get 2 for 100?
The last quote we got was about 45, I think, right?
Okay. Down to this, the CDS thing here, what is the, we talked about this before, what's the water trailer? It's 11,000 for the water trailer.
So it's for when they do work down there or burn, it's to have a water source local.
Where?
When Brian is down there burning, it's so that he can have a water source.
The CDS
trailer.
fields.
It's a trailer, it's like
I
a,
understand it's a trailer, I understand it's
The
a water trailer.
CDS fields, there's no water there currently. at
Okay,
all. It's right behind the Pilot Hill Range.
all right, but then you have on there, which was approved last time, installation of water line to CDS
Yeah.
for $10,000.
We need to get easements through yards and ALT, and that's taking some time. The closest we can pull is from an cul-de-sac in ALT.
Mhm.
And there's 2 homes that we have to pipe through, so we need to get with those people and try and get them to allow us to put a water line through their yard.
Okay, well, what have we been doing for water all these years?
We don't, nothing. Yeah, crossing our fingers. There's a 55-gallon drum there with a sump pump.
Well, so $11,000 seems like a lot of money.
Yeah, that's, the cost unfortunately went up. We haven't looked into it before, but we did have an incident. There was a fire there, a transformer blew up and they had to cut through a bunch of gates and that kind of sparked some need.
We can explore a used
I can go
cost,
back and look at it.
but
that's-
what we got was $10,875.
Okay, and then we talked about this a little bit before, the backhoe attachment or use mini excavator,
Yes,
why is that needed?
because there's no way for him to dig down there.
What's he been doing for all these years?
You know, as the system gets older, you know, you have to repair it. I think that's with anything, that's the CDS line, they're just getting older and older, so.
Aren't you pulling it from another area, the backhoe we have?
We really can't, because they're either, I mean, So- but we really can't, because they're either cleaning canals or the distribution one is always on distribution.
To
work.
answer that, what we did previously is we put it into professional services and have somebody else come out and do the work. That's why we're trying to get it so that we can do it in-house.
Well, just, to me, this seems like a lot of money to spend you know, how are we been getting by for all these years without this stuff, and now we gotta buy a garage to put this stuff in,
Well, there's nothing there now, so there's already a skip loader there,
yeah?
and it's out in the open, everything is out in the open.
It's in a container, isn't it?
There's a Connex container there.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah,
if we get
that's what I
more,
think it's
anything
supposed to
more,
be.
then we have to have something else, and it's just gonna be a shed like we have up there, like a,
That's a
Carport.
carport.
that's what they are, it's a carport.
Well, it says here garage.
It should be cardboard.
Okay.
Semantics.
So how many hours a year are you running or needs this equipment?
Every single Wednesday of every week,
So
all day.
so we've been paying somebody to come out. and do
No,
this.
that's if there's a break. If there's any issues where we gotta dig down or do anything major, it'd be coming out of professional services. But for the maintenance, the roads, clearing, all the brush and stuff on top of the lines out there, all that he does every single Wednesday for every day.
With,
The little tractor that he has and like a mower attachment.
okay,
But we've got like a D-box out there that would be awesome if we could clean it ourselves, because that's right now coming out of professional services. And then any burning, all that kind of stuff we can't do. That's why we have Growlersburg, because we don't have any water. So they have their water truck out there when they come out. And then he's got trees and all sorts of stuff that need to be cleared. And it never stops. The maintenance out there is ridiculous.
I have a logistical question, so just, I know the zone is separate, so are we able to use the equipment from our side to the zone?
You can, but it's very difficult because it's crossing over 2 enterprise funds, and so
Yeah.
we try to keep everything separated.
Well, then I guess we're back to the Growlersburg. Is it more cost effective to have Growlersburg come up there and do that burning out there rather than spend $20,000 where we're spending $200 a day?
You just told us not to hire them, now you're telling us.
My question about Growlersburg, and it continues to be about Growlersburg, is that I've been told that we couldn't have these outside entities coming because of the negotiation and MOUs and all this
You
other.
can't have long-term interns, you can have short-term, this is like a contract, having a
No,
contract.
I get it. I'm just bringing it back because this is what I was told as a fact. We couldn't bring these people in. Because when I first came in, we asked about Growlersburg. Well, we can't have Growlersburg.
I'm not gonna show you, I didn't tell you that.
You're correct.
Different
We had two, I've already been through
So
three
that's
now.
old, we're in
This is
the,
number
we're in the.
So
new
again,
now.
what I'm looking at is for like all this equipment, I'm starting to want to see how many hours and multiple years of how many hours this equipment is being run to now say that we've rented it
We
or
bought our-
replaced it, I meant how we can justify getting something new. Cause like, Mike and I heard, that we need to replace that truck and there was nothing wrong with that truck except it has one patch of paint off of it.
I can run that. I can get you the hours.
I mean, we're trying to figure out how, to justify, it. Like we said, if this guy's up there every Wednesday and you're wanting $20,000.
I got you. I can pull it. That's an easy one.
And I'm okay with, I think we should go the backhoe attachment instead of a whole nother piece of equipment.
It's totally fine either way. My thought was it's more maneuverable to get a mini X into smaller areas.
But a mini X,
either
you're
we're
running two pieces of equipment that you still have to maintain and do oil changes and all that on.
I understand.
Whereas with the backhoe attachment, it's on the same piece of equipment that you already have. It'll take up less space in the carport too. So you can shorten the carport by about 3 feet or so.
Yeah, that'll take the cost from.
And it'll be shorter than the excavator, so you can lower it as well.
Just buy a car.
Well, yeah, there you go. We're gonna get this thing down to about $2,000. the way we're going.
And make sure it's not a blue tarp. Or we'll get fined.
My thought process was, my thought process
We don't
was,
have blue tarps.
It's not in ALP.
Oh, it's not?
No.
I
my,
thought it was in the LT.
it's adjacent to ALT.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, then we're safe.
It's
My,
next to it.
my
blue
thought
tarp
process
then.
was, the
Make it
backhoe
right.
attachment is around $15,000 to $16,000 that we were looking at.
Mhm.
If we could get something that was more versatile as a used mini X for about the same price was my thought. I understand the maintenance and you're right, I'm not discounting what you're saying. But I'm thinking about efficiency and utilization and him taking this attachment on and off when he needs to use it. And instead of just jumping on the piece of equipment when he needs to do it. So that's where I'm coming after it.
I'm coming from, get the backhoe attachment.
Well, that's not-
Excavators are expensive to maintain. And if I'm probably use more fuel. That's my 2 cents worth. I'm just saying, that's what I think it should be done. Because like I said, I mean, excavators take a lot of maintenance.
I'm not discounting what you're saying. I totally agree with you.
And there's nothing wrong with the backhoe attachment to put on the tractor. The only difference is that you can't drive around with something
Yeah.
lifted up on the backhoe, but
It's, yeah.
I'm not gonna be doing that anyway, I would think.
No, I doubt it, but it does take time to put them on and off. I'm sure that you, as a director of maintenance in your past life, don't
Doesn't take
ever want
long.
your employees to spend 2 hours of their 8-hour day putting a piece of equipment on and off.
If it took my
Yes.
employee 2 hours to change that, that employee would be fired in a heartbeat.
And ask for help if you can. do
It doesn't
yourself.
take that
He's a
long.
man of, he's a team of one. Who's gonna help him?
Yeah, you don't need help.
She said ask for help.
Well, I'm just saying, if it's that hard, where it's taking 2 hours,
I mean, theoretically, it shouldn't, but
it shouldn't. No, it should be a walk up
It
and,
should be about
Yeah,
10-15 minutes, what it should be.
okay, so I wanted to make sure that we went over the next page, which is CIP grants.
Let's see if I can get over there.
Oh, yeah, if you have any more questions, please.
What happened to, I think you answered that, no, that was about ditch lining. What happened to line replacement?
It's still there.
She just said we have to get easements.
No, it's,
Oh.
water line to CDS field.
it's,
No, what water main replacement? We always had that on there and it,
treated water line replacement, priority 2, third one down, 65.
there it is, okay, there it is, all right.
The reason it's in priority 2 is I'm going to try to get some grants to do that.
Mhm.
There are grants you can do under water conservation,
Mhm.
so I'm trying to think big on that one. Okay, so if you go down to the bottom, you did ask about, canal lining, it's the second one down. We've done a 1.5 years of environmental work, so hopefully we can start at the end of this.
Oh, what I was looking at where I didn't see that.
It's on the book. It's It's the
No.
federal government that's the problem.
No, I read that thing, it's a book.
Yeah, but the federal, do you wanna know why? It's the federal government who keeps saying, we need this, now we need this, now we need this, don't forget this and that.
I
And
know, it's all the fluff.
it's not been our environmental
That guy
consultant.
puts a lot of fluff in stuff.
Yeah, but you have to understand, it's not him who's fluffing it. It's the federal government who's asking for more and more and more stuff. It's, trust me, I'm just as I wanted to start it this year in November at the end of the last season.
Remember the word for the
And-
federal government.
What's that?
I said, remember who does environmental for the federal government.
I'm looking at you when I say that we always need something else. It's every email. Oh, this was good, but we need this now.
Move along, we got tacos, we gotta.
Oh, geez, sorry. I'm done then. No, I just, I did wanna, you did ask about the, solar, and so on the very bottom, we have.
Give him a cough drop.
Water.
Sorry, I have one direction. For about a $4 million project, 2 million of it's to put the solar up. 2 million is to put the, batteries in. We've identified a $4 million grant that we can get, but it has a 2/3 grant fund and a 1/3 match. So my thought and what I was going to propose is we try to get this grant, get the 2.65 million and take a loan out for the 1.3 million. It will fully, there will be no energy costs anymore. And we take what we're paying to PG&E now and we pay this off in 5 to 6 years and we have an asset for the next 30 years that's totally paid for.
Wasn't there a number of the different costs for, as we flip through the different years, our rebate numbers would get smaller?
So if we buy the system, the rebate doesn't get smaller. It's like an amortization chart. There's certain things, the maintenance costs are in there, but if we take the rebate doesn't get smaller. The amount we're getting is always the same. What's changing is the amount that PG&E is gonna keep charging when they keep doing rate increases. So we're gonna keep it at this rate and then PG&E is gonna go here. And so we're saving this bulk here.
There are some numbers.
You're talking about the net metering, the amount that you would get back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're not getting it.
We're not gonna go back up.
Oh, okay, that's where I was.
We're not anticipating making any money on this. What we're
Rolling back
anticipating is,
at 'em.
well, we have $300,000 that we spend at Sweetwater just to PG&E. It's like 272. We take that 272, we pay off this $1.3 million grant, or even slower and have less operating expenses. And we can have an asset for 30 years and we have $300,000 in the bank to spend on other things.
Well, like the batteries will last 30 years.
They do. They get halfway through in 15 years. It's an $85,000 charge to get them, $185,000 charge to get them refreshed, and then they last for 30 years.
And isn't there a warranty?
So it's a service plan, and so we don't ever do any of the work. All we do is pay for that payment, and then they come out if there's any of an issue. So there's like a 30-year warranty on these. That's why I'm saying if we pay this off, then it's all covered, and our ROI is like 5 years, and then we're making money. So it's just my thought, but I'm still working on some of this.
Well, we'll have time to discuss all that.
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. This is none of this.
Yeah.
There's a caveat in here, and it is written in here that only if we receive these funds will this be
Right.
explored.
Right.
And then, and just at the end, so you're aware, we do have the appropriation limit in here. And maybe I'll turn it over to Joanna because she did all this, but it's basically just every year we can take the amount of property taxes that we can assess, and it increases by 5% every year. So 5%? Or is it 2? I can't remember what the number is. Anyway,
Yeah.
so we basically, our number increases 5% every year. We don't assess that much. We could go back in and assess more property taxes, but we don't. So this is like a buffer for the ability to, in the future, if we wanted to assess more property taxes, we could. But we don't ever wanna not make the appropriation limit go up as we continue, so. It says 3.6 million. We're not ever gonna collect that this year. We're still gonna collect the same, it's like 2.1. But we can. But we'd have to go out, that was one of the, when he said the fees, that's the 66%. So if we went out to go get a property tax, that would be a 2/3 vote. Okay, that is everything that I have. If there's any additional questions from board, finance committee, or the public. Now would be a good time. Yes, sir.
It's so nice to work with the finance committee. We would have been done 90 minutes ago. They get things done fast. I'm real impressed.
I think what we don't see is what you guys accomplish and the recommendations to us. I haven't seen that.
There's a lot of stuff that gets cleaned up in the.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't see, it's like with the irrigation, we went through and did the ordinance, we would send it up to read it up and then send it forward. And, the board would then see what has happened and what had, the committee had been working on. And that's the only thing, I personally haven't seen what you guys do. Because it never comes all the way forward.
If I could say, they do the same process with the ordinance, they beat up the budget.
But we didn't see that. We didn't see the changes they wanted to make. We didn't see any of the information
It's
they
because
wanted.
we incorporate them into the budget and then send it to you.
We've had
So we just don't say that this change came from the finance committee, we just change it.
So it would have been, this is the budget that the changes were made,
Yes.
and recommendation, from the finance committee to us.
Correct.
That didn't happen.
Would you like us to do that going forward?
So if you look at the bottom, I would,
Looking at this.
yeah, there's updates in the presentation.
We're good.
Yeah.
But the original goal was to have a recommendation from the
Yeah, I
finance
saw that,
committee.
but I didn't know where that came from. It did. It's not funny. I'm serious.
But yeah, that's what I'm trying to say, is that's what's coming from them. Those are the
Okay.
updates.
So we have two directors that sit in all of our meetings too. So I mean, it's kind of it's a.
Like I said, we're
And I
not
think
getting
the other difference is you are sitting at the irrigation meeting, so you feel like you're giving this to the board. I get the same information from the irrigation that I'm getting from the finance. You see it more because you're in the meeting, and I'm sure Robert and Nick see it more because they're in that. meeting.
But we redline it and stuff, so we're getting it from the irrigation committee, these things are redlined. And we see what the changes or recommendations are.
Yeah, that's why we tried to
That's
do
what
the
I'm saying.
update sheet, so you could see what changes had been proposed since the last time.
Okay,
So we took it from the beginning when we first proposed the budget. And then we tried to update everything that we changed, and that's what that page is, every time that we had input from the finance
but see,
committee.
nothing here says this is the recommendation from the finance committee.
I have 5 budgets
No,
and it goes
I
through,
get
I
it.
have those, but yeah. and you-
That's what I'm saying, is we don't,
Yeah, you don't see it.
so I don't see that, so that's what, I don't know what these guys are doing, I would like to know what they're doing and what changes, because I don't know.
Yeah, and I will, if I can just give a little bit of professional courtesy back to Mr. Gorens and Mr. Miller, and they've been fantastic to work with, and I have a meeting with Andy.
And
every-
I'm not complaining or putting
Totally,
down
totally.
at any means, I just,
Trust us.
Yeah.
Is there finance committee meeting?
We're
Yeah,
just a,
there is.
we're just a low key operation, okay? It's all right.
So they're not specifically detailed as to what
Yeah.
we're talking.
You can watch the
about.
videos.
We don't know what they want.
Yeah.
You can go through my notes here.
Yeah, that's what I say. I got those.
See where they were, and I know there's a lot of stuff you do, and a lot of stuff gets cleaned and cleaned up, so by the time it comes to us.
well, God damn it. All right, back online, sorry.
Originally, we were gonna ask the finance committee to vote and to forward this on. Since we don't have a quorum, we can take a verbal recommendation from Mr. Miller and Mr. Gorens if they feel comfortable to push this to the board as a recommendation, but we can't do it as a finance committee recommendation.
Includes a consensus.
You can do it as an individual, basically. You can't do it as a committee. I want Joanna to come over and beat me up.
For my part, I think that it's spot on. Because I work separate, you know, I mean, the finance committee works separate from what's happening over here. We get our information in, but then we work it and we come back with an answer. And I will tell you that the thing that impressed me the most is the study that I did through economic resources that I had from clear back in school. Is that I was expecting 9.2%. And if you look at the percentages, they're right around that. They're like in the 10-0, or a lot of them are less than 10-0. So from my standpoint, and for what we're trying to accomplish, and for what the world is beginning to charge to accomplish it, I think that we're doing good. So if you're looking for me to endorse that, I do.
And I agree.
Vice Chair?
Yeah, I agree. I took a little bit different take on that. As I said, I looked at more variable and ways to save money to offset your fixed costs. What let's just call salaries and so forth your fixed costs. And I thought that, you know, to offset the cost, I didn't compute the percentages, but it seemed to be in line with what you could do to save money.
Perfect.
And last year, pretty much spot on last year, and I expect we'll be pretty close this year.
Any board comments?
I'd like to say, good job. I for one appreciate your input and, I appreciate having people that are smarter in this area go through this stuff than I am. Which, now I think about it, you guys are way overqualified. So.
Does that mean we get a raise?
No, it's a pretty low.
10% raise.
No, what I'm saying is it's a pretty low bar as far as my knowledge in this area and everything, so. And I think it's great that, and I'm extremely grateful that people such as yourselves have volunteered to come up and help us out in this area. Because I don't think any of us are as qualified as some of you guys are.
I think everybody on the finance committee would be really happy if you offered them a 10% raise.
You got it.
Right in line.
Sure. You got it.
Will you send up for a free bottle of water?
Well, I'm starting to question their math abilities, cause like 10% of nothing is still nothing.
Any other board comments?
Just another comment, how many people on this board have been on the finance committee?
And Mitch.
Don't look at me.
Mitch was.
So majority of the board came out of the finance committee, so you are our future. I
The
hope.
proving ground.
I think you're all younger than we are, so.
I'm thinking about my age.
They're retired, I mean,
Yeah, that's my point.
we're looking for hobbies that we can do in our time and still be able to serve it.
You could go
And,
from $0
You
to
can
17 cents an hour. That's right.
There we go.
Are there any public comments?
I think Sherry's come.
No, that's her still.
Are there any,
I would, let me just say that too. I appreciate Steve and Sherry are almost at all of our meetings. And I think that the input that they both provided is very beneficial.
oh, yeah.
So, thank you.
Yes, and I will say, Sheree, I appreciate some of the catches. You've been instrumental, so thank you so much.
Let me see, anything else?
And we just gotta adjourn.
So can I have a motion to adjourn?
You mean, you don't need a motion.
I don't.
The special board meeting, you don't have to have a motion.
We do it the board meetings.
Oh, you do it normally with the motion? Okay, then proceed.
And we enjoyed doing
Motion to adjourn.
it. No, I started it.
Okay, so.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Alright.
Next meeting of the Board of Directors will be June 6th, 2 p.m. Georgetown Divide Public Utility District 6425 Main Street, Georgetown. Thank you.